This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
The one who comes into equity must come with clean hands. Prof. K, how would you interpret it?
It's the same as when they say the Caesar's wife must be blameless,
above reproach.
Or above reproach. It's simply that, because you cannot preach water and drink wine at the same time. Your hands must be clean when you are pronouncing certain things.
Yeah. Prof. O, how would you interpret it?
Yeah, definitely. We've seen this, especially when controversial issues are being negotiated, when parties have different, radically different agendas. That is expected that those who now come to have a joint solution must be honest in their positions. They should not keep some cards behind them. And I think what comes to mind, and sadly so, is the DR Congo Rwanda situation, where parties came into equity, but did they come with clean hands? That's the question we're still asking ourselves today.
That's the question,
Yeah.
for sure. The conversation that we're having today is an interesting and why we felt that it was necessary to look at this in detail is because we've been throwing words around, but to actually say, if this is the journey, this is the destination, then what must the journey entail? I want to play something yesterday, or I want to play something now that was played yesterday. I'll just play it, and I hope we can actually hear it.
Their tax as a percentage of GDP is at 34.8%. In Kenya, we are at 15, less than half what it is here. If we have to develop our country, Kenyans must roll up their sleeves and develop their country. Our country is not going to be developed by others. Our country is not going to be developed by aid. Our country is not going to be developed by debt. Our country is going to be developed by us. Japan is built by the Japanese using their own taxes. Kenya will be built by Kenya using our own revenues and our own taxes. That is a statement that we must tell each other. The one thing that I have committed myself to do is that we must then provide a guarantee that every Kenyan who pays for whatever service or pays whatever tax, that money should not be stolen by anybody.
So this was yesterday, and the president spoke about, a number of things that need to happen, especially with the launch of the infrastructure fund to the tune of 5 trillion shillings. Now, that doesn't mean that the money is actually in the pot just yet. It's supposed to come from certain places. But he is of the opinion that Kenya can actually, he keeps saying the word first world, but for purposes of development, we say the developed world, that Kenya must be in the developed world in a very short period of time. And he said that now, yesterday, that this must be done by Kenyans, that it will not be done by aid, it will not just be done by taxes, but that it will be done by Kenyans. Japanese developed Japan, the Chinese developed China. Kenyans must develop Kenya. And there has been a connection to Singapore more times than we can count. And this first world, which is the word that he uses often, is what Kenya is not just aspiring to, but that is where Kenya is going to reach. The journey there is not just picking up your satchel and walking. It seems to be that there's a lot of work that needs to be done to get there. Let's start with you, Professor Kagwanja. What does it actually take? Do we understand or do we realize what it takes to get there, or is it beyond just proclamations?
When God decided to create the world or the universe as we know it, he started by clarifying his thoughts, that the earth moves, the sun is still. And that clarity of thought was very, very, very important. When we in our lives as we are today, there are two kind of thinking or thoughts that guides what we do. The first is the utilitarian, there, out there, the end justifies the means. So whatever you say, you emphasize the means. The other one is you emphasize the ends. Mm-hmm. The other one is to emphasize the means, which is basically the logical way to do, because you cannot reach the end of the journey until you have walked the whole journey. And therefore, the best way of thinking is to take people through where they are first. Get us where we are and why we are there. And we have a very clear view of where we are and why we are there and why we have not been moving. Then you can take us through the steps that we need to take. For example, tell us what we have not done with Vision 2030, because it's about 3 years to go. Just tell us why has Vision 2030 not worked, if it has not, or to what extent has it worked? Then tell us what other vision you have as an alternative. Then we can start discussing the end. Because, it's not about the end. Because all the things that we're talking about are not new. How many countries have funds? Yeah, Norway has funds.
Yes, it does.
Singapore has funds, but it never started with funds. China has multiple funds. You cannot even count how many funds they have. Not only for themselves, but even for the rest of the world, like the Belt and Road Initiative is a fund, is an infrastructure fund. The question is, what do you want to do with the fund? So where is the roadmap? Where is the script? Right? Now, the problem we have had, and I've said this before, and let me start by saying, what the president is saying and doing, what the president is saying, if done, is what Kenya needs to do.
Yes. If done.
Yeah, if done.
Okay.
And two, if we change our course. So the president has realized that Kenya has everything that we need, that is needed to develop. And we have never developed because there are certain fundamentals that are not in place. And those are the fundamentals that perhaps we should be debating, not the end. Infrastructure fund, as I've said, is everywhere. Vision, we have one now, which is about to expire in 4 years. Now the question is, what is the postmortem of that particular process? The other thing is literally, when you change gear, tell people you have changed gear.
Yes.
Don't just take people, Vamia. You just wake up and they're shocked. Yesterday we were talking about hustlers, which is the people at the bottom. Now we are talking about the grass tops. No longer grassroots. There's a grass tops. Because when you're talking about infrastructure fund, you're talking about, sovereign funds and all these. This is big talk, even for some economists. It is still sometimes difficult to differentiate between national investment fund, national infrastructure fund, national endowment fund, all those. You need to be a financial economist in order to understand those. So we have moved from the bottom up to now the top down. And this top down has one problem, and that's what we'll be talking about. It is not fundamentally based on our economy. Because our economy, the problem is that we shifted to mercantilism. We are buying tiles, buying clothes, establishing hotels to consume. Nobody is talking about production. Safaricom and a few other corporations are the main sources of our taxes, right? Which is basically a consumer. Our bundles, you were talking about bundles. This is what is sustaining this economy. Where is mwananchi wa kawaida in terms of production? So we are a consumer economy, not a production economy. Singapore is a production. Japan is a production. Every car ahead of you is Toyota. That's what they tell us. China is a production. So this is where the problem is, that we are beginning to walk. We are determined to walk, but we are walking with our heads.
Prof, when you talk about the 5 trillion Kenya shillings infrastructure bond that you talk about, so we talk of 5 trillion as being this the funds that we need to catapult this country into the developed status. But if you just pause, Prof, and you look at how much taxes Kenyans have given to KRA, right, between 2022 and 2025, I was just doing that math, right? So 2022 to 2023, 2.166 trillion, 2.407 trillion, 2.571 trillion, a total of 7.144 trillion shillings that Kenyans have given to KRA. And one then goes to ask the question, with 7.14 trillion shillings, what have we done with these funds today that anyone would just sit and say, we finally see this trillion of shillings in this road, in these hospitals, students have gone to school, healthcare is working. And one would say, it is not seen. So then goes to the next question. As we look forward to getting 5 trillion shillings through taxes, have we prepared policies? Have we prepared a way that we will manage these 5 trillion shillings? Because one would say, we are busy launching all these projects without a plan.
Yes, I think Prof has started us on the solid note. I would liken this with somebody who wants to drive a Mercedes-Benz, because Mercedes-Benz performs very well. But what they do is that they get that crown, the insignia, and then they put it on their tuk-tuk. and they tell the neighbors that they do have the Mercedes-Benz. The issue is that the Mercedes-Benz is actually the engine. That's the core.
Yes.
While wanting to be like Singapore, wanting to be first world and so on is a good thing, as Prof has already said. But we must ask ourselves, what is the core? What made these economies what they are today? And so that even if you're borrowing from Singapore, we're not just borrowing the badge and pasting on ourselves. You must ask yourself, what is the fundamental? And without any fear of contradiction, I can say Singapore got where it got, not because of infrastructure.
No.
Singapore got where it got because of good governance, and projected over long periods of time. It was because of Lee Kuan Yew's zero tolerance to corruption, having systems in place, meritocracy, ensuring that the right people for the job were put in those places and they delivered. And if you didn't deliver, of course, you're removed. If you're corrupt, then you're jailed, if not hanged. It started with governance. The Singapore story started with governance. And I would love when every time our president opens his mouth to speak about Singapore, that he should be speaking about corruption, that he should be speaking about good governance, that he should be speaking about meritocracy, that he should be speaking about the death of tribalism, the other factionalism and nepotism and so on. The current trend in this country is to put the most incompetent people from your communities to run things. And you can't even run a chicken farm like that. I do run a farm, and people from my village are not generally employed in that farm because they don't have the skills that are needed in that farm. But somehow we believe that these same people from the same village can then actually run the ministry that oversees all our operations. That is the blatant stupidity of Kenya's issues and dreams, as it actually were. Aseto here has spoken about huge amounts of money that the taxpayer gives to government every year. And government has nothing to show for it. And what basically we are saying is that we shall even get more money, then you shall see something. It is not true. It's even biblical. If you cannot be trusted with a little, you really will not be trusted or expected to deliver with much. Right. And these are the things we must actually talk about. When we're talking about corruption costing us 3 billion, that is enough money. We don't even need to go to the markets. That is enough money to raise the 5 trillion.
Exactly. In a very short period of time.
In a very short period of time. We'll be look at 1 point something trillion. Yeah. And this corruption only. We are not looking at government inefficiencies. Prof here will tell you, government typically spends double what what we should be spending in the market on any project. Yeah, we work on projects, be it roads, be it a school or whatever it is. Government spends at least double. You just bring in efficiency in government expenditure and we eliminate corruption. We'll be able to raise, as you're saying, we'll be able to raise the 5 trillion in a year.
Right.
Easily. You know, if we don't hit it, it'll be maybe 2.something trillion. Yeah. So the issue in Kenya, as far as I'm concerned, is not lack of money, really. Including raising money. Raising the 5 trillion is not a problem at all. We have resources here in this country that if government goes to the market, that will be raised quite quickly. The issue that we have in this country, the problem that we have in this country, again, is what Prof had actually highlighted. I don't know how to categorize it. It's a special type of foolishness because you set out to go somewhere. You are in the wrong place and you don't even ask yourself where you are. You just get a new destination. Tell people, no. You see, we're going to Naivasha, but now that we find ourselves in Mali, why don't we go to Namanga? You know,
what was your plan?
Exactly. Like, where are you going in the first instance? And where we're going was really spelled out in Vision 2030 with systems and structures in place. And we haven't reached there because we still have 3 years of that journey. Why aren't we taking stock and asking ourselves, where are we with this particular plan that we had? And we had other plans, not just Vision 2030. Again, as Prof is highlighting here, we rounded up an entire group of poor people and told them that we shall take them to heaven, that the heaven will belong to hustlers, the heaven belongs to hewers of woods and drawers of water, that heaven will belong to this, what the Marx would call lumpen proletariats.
Right.
And we're laughing on the other hand, we're saying, which economists are these ones? Who are telling you that you can actually drive an economy and cause change by using people who are basically in welfare, regardless of the political economy system that you're using. Whether you are using a socialist system, the poorest have never driven the economy. It's labor that drives the economy. If you use the capitalist system, it is the investor that drives the economy. And we're saying we need more fundamental conversations. The conversation is not just money. The conversations is, number one, what have we done with what we have received? Yes. Number two, we've had plans. And we have great plans. And we love those plans. In fact, at that point, we didn't have inferiority complex. We're not saying Vision 2030 want to be like Singapore. No, we just wanted to achieve some things that were good for us. And it made sense. We didn't have inferiority complex of saying, I want to be like my neighbor. Why do you want to be like your neighbor? Your neighbor is different from you. And there's a problem with African countries. We have inferiority complex at national levels. Why do you want to be like somebody else? There are good things in this continent, actually, that we need to preserve. Yes, of course, we can pick one or two references to say, yes, we want to be economically superior and so on. But on the other hand, we must actually, stick to our visions and our plans and of course, revise them. And when we give up also, again, as Prof said, you come up to the people and tell them, look here, we think every plan that we had was foolish. We have figured out...
the drawing board.
No, we are not even going to the drawing board. We want now to be like our neighbors in Singapore. And even once you say that, then you must understand your neighbor. You come and say, our neighbor does 1, 2, 3, 4 things. Our neighbor did 1, 2, 3, 4 things. So we're going to do 1, 2, 3, 4 things. But otherwise, this cherry picking is nonsense, honestly. It makes nonsense of good ideas.
Okay.
Because, again, as I wind up my train of thought on this particular matter, let me wind up there, because the question you're asking, infrastructure for what? And this politicized infrastructure will not get us at Singapore. It will give us white elephants.
Because that's the thing when we talk about the infrastructure. Because what are we saying when we say infrastructure? We're talking about what they would say the dams, the 1,000. I don't know how many that are going to be supposedly done by a certain period of time. We're talking about the road network, which they've said is going to be 28,000 kilometers of road.
It's about the length of the roads,
right?
Rather
We're
than
talking
what the
about
roads
the
do.
length as opposed to what they do.
Exactly.
That roads will then connect people and places, and that roads will now then bring product from farm to market.
Exactly.
Which essentially is what we are saying, Prof, that builds an economy.
Correct.
That I'm hard-pressed, but maybe you can prove it otherwise, that there is no economy in the developed space today that has not exported at profit in order to become developed.
Yes.
Am
Exactly.
I wrong?
Exactly.
Prof. Kawanja?
That is key.
You are right, and I think I'll take from where Professor Menya has started. Has stopped, because it's this country is endowed.
Correct.
In many ways.
Correct.
We don't have to lament. We don't have to look at our neighbors or what they are dressing in, and we're beginning to get this youth mentality that I want to go to America because America is over advertised.
Correct.
And when you get there, the fundamental question is, at what level of American society do I want to enter?
Correct.
So if you want to enter at the level of elite, then you educate yourself at home.
Correct.
So that when you go to America, you plug yourself at the relevant social structure, that you don't go to clean toilets and clean other things. You go straight to a bank and work and start sending remittances home. Here, the fundamental problem we have is one. We have 2027 coming. And face it.
Yes.
Face it. This is simply a repackaging of the Hasra dynasty thing, because that one will not work. Why? Because that one was meant for Mount Kenya, where we have historical divides between the Itungatis and the
Yes.
traitors. So in order to get that block of vote, you needed a very polarizing kind of ideology. Now that is gone. Now you need an alternative ideology that creates what we call mirage into the future. But the mirage are based on reality. Let's be clear. If you're talking about a political genius in this country, political genius, I'm not talking about, I'm not at the level of leadership. I'm talking about politics.
Yeah.
Right.
Raw politics,
Correct.
as we know it. There is no better thinker than our president.
Current president. Correct.
He's, in terms of political capacity, political thinking, there is nobody who can match him here.
Right. True.
Yeah, you need to import. Okay?
Or
Yeah.
manufacture.
Or manufacture if you can. But he is in his own class. And in terms of oratory, I think the only Marcus Aurelius,
Yes.
the Roman
Yes.
senator,
Yes,
would floor him.
Oh, yes.
I don't see anybody else flooring him. Even in the
He's the
history,
best-
in
he's
the
the
history of
soldier.
rhetoric.
Yes.
And therefore, and I'm sure that's why his chicken was selling.
Oh, those ones.
Yeah,
Okay.
those
Right.
days, and that's why he sold his way, his chicken, his way into the presidency by selling chicken. How many people are selling chicken and they're not president? It's because you can talk your way into selling chicken, you become one.
Yeah.
So I'm not trying to ridicule, because this is a very serious matter about our nation, and we must learn to tell our people the truth.
True.
And the truth is the only one that will save us. We have failed to deliver to the hustlers.
Correct.
Let's admit that, and we put it down there. And since we are Christians who know souls can become Pauls, they will forgive. Then we move on. We say, now we want to try the bigger money, the top down, because the bottom up has failed.
But I'm sorry, Prof.
Yes.
I would need to interject with this question, because you have to look at intent in these things. When you talk about failure, was there an intention, a pure intention, to actually lift the
succeed.
hustlers
Yeah.
out of this supposed poverty? Because if there was, then you would say, where did we go wrong in the last 2.5 years that did not allow these hustlers to rise out of poverty? Now, rather than abandoning that ship over there, the Imali Namanga situation, since we were going to Imali and wherever we were going, Naivasha, we find ourselves in Imali. Rather than trying to reroute to find our way back towards Naivasha, we decide to pick up something else. So is there an intent to actually have this done? Because guess what? If there's no intent, even this way, first world place you're supposedly going to, which I prefer to use the developed space.
Yes.
That's why I was talking about.
Can you actually then say that, okay, well, we're going to pick up something else along the way? You dump this because it's not working. It's like the 17-year-old boy who's dumped this girl because, her hair is the wrong color. Another one's got a bout of acne. So you dump her and get to the next one. And then you're going nowhere by the time you're 18. This is the thing.
I think that's why I started by talking about our president being a political genius. And he's a political genius because he can sell anything.
Correct.
Including things that are not supposed to be bought. For example, nobody ever needed to buy the Hasra thing from
Correct.
pure economics. If you are a serious scholar of political economy, then you would not even have touched that thing. Why? Because you want to lift people from poverty.
Exactly.
Then the thing you tell us is, what are they going to produce?
Correct. Yeah.
So that they will have money in their pockets and
be
therefore
out
they will
there.
be able to grow the economy. So the fundamentals of economic thought
Correct.
were lacking. Now here, in this second one, it has two forms of lies in it, which we must unmask. The first lie is that infrastructure can develop a country or can transform Kenya into a Singapore. It can't, because it is structure from what to where. Just go to the basics of colonialism.
And
The colonialists were frank.
Yes.
They said the railway line is Uganda railway,
Correct.
because they were moving from Mombasa to tap the resources of Uganda.
Right.
Kenya developed by mistake. Is what we call development by contradiction. And this is what Walter Rodney will tell us so.
Yes.
Now, the Germans were even more frank. They would call their railway by groundnut railway, gold line,
Yes.
the Tiba line, because they were going to get that. Because infrastructure is about what we're developing.
Correct.
President William Ruto did not need to go in such a sophisticated, or is it sophisticated or esoteric? Esoteric manner. He didn't just go to the ground. I can see him being elected
Yeah.
on the basis of the deals he has already clinched.
Yeah.
That's what he needs to tell Kenyans.
Yeah.
That he is in a position now with no contradiction and no fear.
Yeah.
That to bring the railway from Naivasha
Yeah.
to Maraba.
Yeah.
How many presidents have done that in their country?
Yeah.
He will definitely, by the time he leaves office, build the road from Lironi to at least Mau Summit,
Mau Summit.
Yes.
and he will have started the path to Eldoret
Correct.
and back to Maraba.
Correct.
I am sure the Nithi Bridge will be completed.
Right.
I am definitely sure that the road from the Mudaiga there going towards Duberi, at
Yes.
least it will be there.
Right.
Therefore, he will have more to show
Right.
than Ibed Kibaki. And tell you what, if he wants to do an expressway from Nairobi to Thika, he'll do it. Why? Because the model has already been set.
Correct.
We are not going for loans.
Correct. True.
We are going for investments.
Yes.
And there are people out there who are keen to invest.
Correct.
The Chinese have already committed through what we call the Beijing Plan of Action to give Kenya money to complete this project.
But it's not going to develop Kenya.
No, that we are
Yes.
we are talking about we are talking about
re-election and
now,
taking boxes.
part of the project I have on my docket,
Yeah.
the one that I am working on in my office, is to ask, when the railway is completed from Mombasa to Maraba,
Yeah.
what is it going to carry?
Yes. Exactly.
This is the question we're asking.
Correct.
And therefore, we are beginning to think about the hubs.
Correct.
This hub, that hub, that hub,
Correct.
which will now feed the railway. Look
Correct.
at Naivasha. Naivasha is now beginning to feed the railway with avocados
Right.
and vegetables.
Right. Right.
So now we are talking about refrigerating
Right.
so that things can reach Mombasa or the destination easily.
Correct.
So the debate is not about funds.
Correct.
It's about the products.
Correct.
It is not about the infrastructure. It's about what it's going
What
to
you
carry.
do. Exactly.
What is it going to transport?
Correct.
And because our economy will grow not on imports, but on exports.
Correct.
So what are we going to export?
Correct.
So what we have now, and I say this and conclude, is an advertisement, is government by advertisement.
Right.
And government by advertisement is dishonest to Kenyans. It's very untruth. And at our age, we must learn to speak the truth. Because lies don't last.
Exactly.
What lasts are truth.
Okay, so when,
Yeah.
if, it's
Yeah.
if it's an advertisement,
Yes.
usually the folks who are doing the advertising don't actually clinch the home run until somebody goes into the store and purchases.
Right. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So this doesn't look like it looks like it's another thing that's being said. The infrastructure will be done, but then what needs to happen? And I think that's if we can't see as people what needs to happen in order for this development to take place, this exportation that we talk about, there's an entire ministry. It's the one with a very long name.
Right.
MITI, exactly.
Yeah.
That is supposed to be handling some of these things, there was supposed to be $1 million investment funds whereby you
Right.
were bringing in people
Correct.
from externally to come and invest in the country through things like KIPES
Right.
and industrial parks.
Right.
The PSs on that docket have been
Right.
changed more times than are closed in a week.
Correct.
So how then do we say we're going to actually get a product or 2 or 3 that you send out of the country? I read something the other day. The largest exporter of matchsticks, the ones that matchsticks, is Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
Matchsticks. People around the world are buying matchsticks,
Right.
but that money is going directly back to Saudi
Exactly.
Arabia.
Exactly.
Until you do something like that.
Exactly.
How will you say you're developing?
But this this is picking up from where Prof has left it. The other thing that you see, I mean, instead of selling us this shiny stuff, why not take a step back and ask really from a very honest point of view that what did you want to do for your people and what did you want to do for your country? Honestly, in a very simple way, if my people, if say I was a president, if my people had a little bit more money in their pockets, if the quality of their life was better, if their income was increasing, every year, if they could afford better healthcare, better education, and so on, then in fact we'll be getting somewhere. And these things are not glamorous. They require work. If these places we are talking about, if real employment would be created in sectors that we know Kenya is largely agricultural.
Yeah.
And we're saying, fine, what are the actual jobs in agriculture? It's just been people working in farms. But we're saying, can we complete those value chains here? So that when I go to the supermarket in Nairobi today, I don't buy sugar from Kakira.
Right.
These basic things that we're talking about. And those are saying that we don't actually need, I believe, as Kenya now, we don't need a glamorous dream. In this sense, and again, Prof has spoken to it, I'm quite convinced that the president has what it takes to win the next elections. Going by his own political acumen, and what we're saying is that can we actually get some real serious job done, and we see an actual change in these particular sectors, and we're not saying that it solves everything. We are saying, for example, that, look here, our agriculture was at a particular level. Can we see some consistency? Can we see the sugar industry, changed? Can we see our coffee? We don't have to import Nescafe. And he speaks about these things, actually. That's why I was talking about esoteric and eclectic. Can we actually see a situation where our own product here competes with Nescafe in the global space? What are we doing on tea? What are we doing in the north? In terms of livestock and so on, and you're right, Ndu. We do have all manner of corporations to deal with these issues. But remember, any organization we run, the tone is set, the focus is done by the CEO. It is not the departments. You can create as many damn departments as you want. They will never make a bank. If you have a good CEO running the bank, is the one that would then guide these departments
Tell me about
so
it.
that they could actually make that bigger impact. You cannot just come and say, I've got a good guy in supplies, I've got a good guy, and everybody's doing their own thing, and then you hope to get something together. And this message is to Mr. President. We love you very much. We know even some of those things that you speak have some bits of truth exactly where. But the issue is very simple. Can we get a coherent vision? Can we take stock of where we are as a country? And you still have time. Can we be able, to move the country in a more coherent way, into this future? That's the only way that we'll get into Singapore. Rhetoric is okay. We know you'll speak and you'll say wonderful things, and people will actually cheer. But on the other hand, it is not too much to ask that can we be able to deal with some of these really basic things so that you don't import fish in Kisumu. You don't eat fish from China in Kisumu. The fish factories in Kisumu, 20 of them have closed in the last 10 years. And we're saying, can we get those back running? You went to the sugar belt. Can we get the sugar factories working again so that the farmers can operate, so that the schools that were in those places can actually function? Can we get Sisal that was in Taita Taveta and all this back? Surely, and as Professor alluded here, Kenya was basically an exporter when the colonialists came here. And we are exporting all manner of things. We are exporting timber, we are exporting sisal, that's how this area started producing what they're producing. That 100 years ago, semi-illiterate colonialists who didn't even love us were able to actually be net exporters. We are saying, Mr. President, is it too much to ask that the country can then produce, can process, and become net exporters? We're not even talking about AI. We're not even talking about vehicles. We're not talking about those things. We're just talking about things that grow on the soil. And then after that, we can move to the next level.
I mean, let's look at Vision 2030, right? So if you look at Vision 2030, there are 3 critical pillars that were guiding it. So we have the economic pillar, social and political pillars. And below that now, there are other pillars under those major pillars that then guide the same. So we have infrastructure development, land reforms, public sector reforms and security, human resource development, science, technology, and innovation. And if you look at the bottom tier policy that was then feeding into the bigger pillars, you would see a structured way on what exactly we wanted to achieve. So here we are, SGR is here, and one, like we've asked the question, to do what? What is it doing for us to say it is making sense? Because there has been conversation that, fine, we have the SGR, it is pretty, it is beautiful, it is fairing people, but was that the core responsibility of SGR? What is it fairing outside the country to the rest of the world for it to make economic sense and the billions of shillings that Kenyans spent on it? Fine, we will stretch it all the way to Busia. What is it bringing into the country or outside the country for Kenyans to say it is making sense? Rironi, Mau Summit. What are we transporting on that road for it to make economic sense? White elephants are reality. But with all these conversations that we are having, I'm sorry to say, but there is no clear plan or clear explanation on what all this infrastructure is coming to do for Kenyans.
Dennis, you know, even on infrastructure, it is very... We do have different types of infrastructure, and they're clear. They're very, very clear. We have economic infrastructure, and we have social infrastructure. Economic infrastructure is infrastructure that results directly into economic productivity. Be it you know, getting raw materials into farms, implements, and so on, or be it you know, getting logistics, getting this into the market, you know, supporting the factories and the industries and so on, is very, very clear. And then we have social infrastructure where we're saying, no. These are things that our people just need. We know they will not result in significant economic impact, but they're saying, yeah, we sort of need to open up this area socially, not even economically, so that the people can actually be included. And to me, this is an issue that what Kenya is actually talking about, and what the president is purportedly talking about, should be economic infrastructure. And what we should be hearing is not the infrastructure per se. It is what economies is this infrastructure going to help us achieve? Will it help, you know, increase production of sugar? Will it, you know, sort out logistics? Will it connect us to new markets? What exactly is this infrastructure doing?
That's where I thought you lost a very, very important thread. And you had started on it. I would not talk about infrastructure in terms of economic development. Because economic development and the concept of economy has multiple synonyms you can use.
That is true.
You know, when you talk about infrastructure, the most important infrastructure is what you're calling the social infrastructure. And the social infrastructure is what our founding fathers would define as nation building. Because there is a Kikuyu or a Luo and a Kenyan can be two different people depending on where you are sitting. That this is a Kenyan and this is a Kikuyu. Because I think like and I act like the one. But this one acts like a Kenyan and therefore is a Kenyan. So because it's in our mind. Now, our nation and its future must be clearly in our minds.
Correct.
And that is the infrastructure we need. We need that infrastructure that tells me that I love my brother, don't I? I love my sister, don't I? But they don't fit to be deputy presidents. They don't fit to be in the cabinet. They don't fit
Correct.
to be even teachers
Correct.
in high school.
Correct.
They're my sisters. They're
Yeah.
my brothers.
But they're not qualified for
But
that.
they're not qualified for that. I should be able to make that judgment. Because what Lee Kuan Yew did to transform an island into a superpower now,
Right.
and we are putting it in even in our documents now, is simply the social and psychological infrastructure,
Correct.
that
Correct.
mental infrastructure. When you see potholes on the roads, don't think about those potholes you are going over on the road. Think about the potholes in our minds.
Yeah.
Because those are the more dangerous potholes
Correct.
we have. Now, the potholes we have that should make us develop our infrastructure are the potholes of corruption. The potholes that we should be concerned about are the potholes of inability to think in a meritocracy way.
Right.
That you need this in order to develop this.
Right.
Because these are public offices.
Right.
Put the best and our ablest
Right.
in those places, because that is what Lee Kuan Yew did.
Correct.
So when you are borrowing Singapore, don't borrow only their infrastructure as you see it now.
Right.
Because this is a manifestation of serious work done.
Correct.
And the serious work was Lee Kuan Yew teaching his people that spending your sweat, or rather from your sweat, or living from your sweat, is what makes you a
Correct.
grown-up. And that's why today in Africa, the most famous person, if you look at us, is Captain Traoré
Yes.
of Burkina Faso.
Yeah.
Right.
Burkina Faso is a landlocked country,
Yeah.
somewhere in the middle of the Sahara almost, right? Why has it become the model of Africa? Because the leadership from Sankara to Traoré emphasized the mental infrastructure.
Right.
Not the physical that you are going to tell us 100 kilometers, 12 kilometers. Kenya is not about kilometers.
Yes.
Because even if you tarmac the whole country,
Right.
what would that mean for us?
Correct.
And you see, Prof, when you just speak about Burkina Faso, I was watching a documentary the other day on how the mental infrastructure has been fixed so much that the people themselves wake up every day. You have a company that is producing ballast. You
Yes.
donate that, you make cabros, and you give that to the country and even go lay them themselves, because at the end of the day, a better looking infrastructure that is working will be able to feed into the farms that they have to bring to the market. Today, as we
right.
speak, Burkina Faso that you say is landlocked is pretty much feeding better part
neighbors.
of the
Right.
neighbor
Yeah.
because of value addition on their tomatoes
Correct.
that they are now shipping.
Because they
outside.
asked the fundamental question,
Exactly,
Prof.
correct,
They
exactly,
asked the
exactly.
fundamental question.
Yeah.
What Sankara asked
Yeah.
did not, why don't we have roads? Why don't we have that's not the question he asked.
But,
He asked, who are we?
And remember,
Yeah.
the thing is that, and we need to disabuse ourselves of this fallacy.
Yes.
We can build as many roads as we want, but then, if you're building it so that we can be like Singapore, Singapore will be building other roads.
Yes.
So when
When are you
by the
gonna
time we
catch up?
finish building our roads, our roads will look like a joke, and then we start building more roads and more roads and more roads. And again, as Prof is saying here, I always like Thika Road as an example, because I drive there quite often, and what I always love about Thika Road is not the Thika Road itself. It normally looks like a parking. It is a traffic jam
Yeah.
that I always see on Thika Road, and every time I pass by Thika Road, I'm always driving sort of on the other side.
The other side.
In the morning, I drive away from the city.
Traffic, yeah.
In the evening, so I see these guys, and they're like animals in a zoo. They're a spectacle, and I'm like, what happened to this country? That they can actually create such a large traffic jam that lasts for many hours, involving very productive people. So I sympathize with them. So going back to Prof's point, the issue here is not the infrastructure. It is what the damn infrastructure does.
Yeah.
You're meant to solve a transport problem. What you need is actually efficient transport. A road might be one of the ways of solving it, but might even be a problem. And you kept saying there that what we need we needed around the city and even around Thika Road was efficient public transport.
Yes.
Public transport, not a bigger road. So even this infrastructure talk that we're talking about, what you should be asking, Mau Summit Rironi, we can do their 10 lane road.
Sure.
And it might just be a 10 lane traffic jam. we should be asking ourselves, what problem are we actually solving? And the problem for me is a public transport problem and a logistic problem. And we have to be very careful about, not just the infrastructure, but there are also software issues that we're dealing with here. That's also transport. Let me give you an example of how hustlers attempted to solve our transport problem. And it's a very simple mathematical example. We're saying, look here, if you do a train in the city, you'll be able to carry 10,000 people at a go.
Okay.
But then the hustlers said, no. The train might be the French and whatever it is, and we can't make money from it. So we are going to do rapid bus transport. I said, yeah, nice. Now, instead of carrying 10,000 people, you'll be carrying 80. 80 is still okay. That is quite brilliant. From 100,000, but we can live with it. A few roads were painted, and we were about to celebrate 80. Then bottom ups came.
Yes.
And we said, no, now we shall actually promote the border person. And we shall be giving borders in State House. You go to State House and you're given border as a solution to public transport. So from 10,000, now we are carrying one person. Ideally, okay, they carry two, whom they kill because they don't wear any protective gear or anything like that. So we've come from 10,000 to one, and we don't even see a problem with it. In fact, we're still proceeding with the same things in State House. My point is that we need to apply our minds a little bit better. Yeah. And this country does not have mentally retarded people. The average Kenyan is okay. The people can actually think. But sometimes the ridiculousness and the ridiculous solutions that we see from the political class makes it appear like we are in a country where people really do not have brains at all. So these are the issues. And I was using that as an illustration. You're the same person building highways, and then on the other hand, you're promoting borders. Really?
So which one is
what problem are you solving?
Yeah. There's some development whiplash that's happening there.
We need to solve this public transport. You need to be truthful to these people. That if you're to solve the transport and logistics problem for our people, dump your border now. Really, dump your border now and maybe become a train driver or maybe become a bus driver. That's how you'll survive. Or go and do something else. Drive trucks because we're going to get into
manufacturing.
There's a highway going to Malaba. I'd like us to take a break for the news. We'll come back and continue this conversation. It's important that we do for us to really understand what this vision looks like, because then the involvement of people then allows you to say, hang on a minute, we're all in concert that this needs to move in a different direction. It's 8 o'clock. Professors Kagwanja and Omenya are here with us this morning. This conversation continues when we're back from this. Don't go away.
This is Your Day.
I'm reminded of these churches where they push prosperity. And the way prosperity is pushed is by claiming. There's something they call you claim what was actually yours. Yeah. So if you see a helicopter outside, you go and lay your hands on it and claim it. So, of course, you don't work for it. You have no money for it and so on. But then you claim it. That's how irrelevant some of these dreams are. Yeah, so dreams are okay, but some dreams are totally irrelevant. Some are even dangerous. Some might turn you into a thief. Yeah, because there's such a big disconnect between your dreams and the reality.
Yeah.
The other one is a sad one that you mentioned there about advisors. A lot of these advisors, a number of them are people who've taught at the university. And Prof and I, at some point, we taught at the university. That's why we're professors. If this was an assignment, what the president is doing was an assignment, basic assignment, right? About not even in economics, just a warm-up for students, where you're saying, write about how to get your country to a developed world.
Introduction to international relations.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
And this was an assignment.
Yeah.
The president would score 0. In fact, we'd call him for censure. Maybe because we'd be thinking that.
Is this what you really want to study? Yeah.
Are you sure? Have you heard about governance? Have you heard about corruption? Have you heard about meritocracy? Have you heard about systems and how they work? Have you heard about strategic plans? Have you heard? And that's what people like Ndi should be telling the president, that
you're our boss, but this one is, this one is a bit stupid. These are at least these are the basics that you should have. And because you have a particularly weak student, why don't you just copy another student? And we do that with students all the time. Go look at a thesis that was written here 3 years ago. It deals with the same thing, and then see what you can add. And that's what I would advise Ruto if I was his advisor. I would tell Mr. President, first I would laugh a little bit. And I would tell, well, Mr. President, there was a guy here just like you. He was also a president, and he did a thesis called Vision 2030. Just go read it, make a few changes to it, and also read what Lee Kuan Yew had done for his country, and then make a few changes, and then come back. Then maybe we can have a more coherent conversation. Currently, this is quite erratic.
If I could add to
yes.
that, what Prof has said. You see, in the first place, and not everybody will have the privilege of teaching the university in order to know that this is a good thesis, this is a bad thesis. But even in the village, because I sit in the villages and with the elders, the coherence of thought among our people is amazing.
Yeah.
Our people from the west to the south, they think straight.
Exactly.
Now, in this country, we know that we started off very well with a document called wealth creation.
Correct.
And the purpose of the wealth creation was to get out of this talk about poverty alleviation.
Correct.
Like
Correct.
the goal is
Exactly.
poverty is like the sun. It has
Correct.
to be there. What we want to do is to reduce the heat.
Correct.
No, poverty does not need to concern us. It is how we transform ourselves into, prosperous people.
Exactly.
So it's all about prosperity.
Correct.
So that is one. Then we moved from there to Vision 2030.
Right.
Vision 2030 is expiring in the next 3 or so years. Now, by this time, the debate that the president should have kicked off is the debate about Kenya Vision 2063.
Correct.
Which will get us 100. And that's what China and others are doing.
Correct.
Now, the other thing he should be doing is about thinking. I had no problem with Moi in March 2018, 2002, when he said that Kano is going to govern for 100 years. Because if you don't have party, an elite,
Correct.
where your visions succeed each other
Correct.
in the same manner currently, then the nation can never develop. Ruto can never turn Kenya into a Singapore because it's a single leader.
Correct.
And the transformation of countries is a multi-generational.
Yeah.
So what we should be talking about is not a multi-generational fund. It's a multi-generational leadership.
Correct.
Let me give you the thinking here. China started off in 1949 and all the way up to 1978. It's such a poor country, so pathetic, that in Africa, only 2 countries were poorer than China. That was Uganda and Guinea-Bissau. Yes, by 1980, February, the only 2 countries that were poorer than China were those 2. And both of them were in civil war. Uganda was in civil war with Amin, Guinea-Bissau had come from another civil war after Amilcar Cabral was assassinated and all that. After 1978, we have had Mao Zedong had died. So we have Deng Xiaoping and his successors. By today, all these leaders seamlessly have developed their country using what they call opening up and reform policies. It is not about infrastructure funds that China has set. It is not about sovereign funds. It is not about funds, these cow funds, goat funds, and chicken funds. No, that's not what they did. They set up a vision that every leader must adhere to. And that was the dream of the national government, that will have a vision which will guide every of our leaders. Ruto is supposed to be implementing the final part of Vision 2030. And therefore, he has a historical obligation to give us the next vision for the next either 30 or 50 years. If he thinks that Kenya will become a United States by whatever.
But if you prolong a vision, or if you bring in a new vision, should you not actually look at what you've been able to achieve?
That's the point. That's the debate we should be having.
Yeah.
We should be having about debate about what we have done, what we have achieved. And by the way, we have achieved a lot.
Yes.
And to be honest, Ruto has been part of that process.
Correct. Yes.
So he should be claiming that legacy.
Exactly.
Because he was part of it.
Including the infrastructure.
Including the infrastructure anyway. No.
Yes.
He was part of it. And therefore, he should be thinking about the successor leadership. Right. Now, he should be looking for the younger people now to mentor who will understand the vision, and carry that into the future. From Deng Xiaoping to Xi Jinping, those 7 leaders have transformed China into a superpower within a period of 40 years. So you don't need, if you don't need a lot of that, pulling from the bottom. Kenya is not coming from where China came from. Yes. We are coming from a middle income economy that is rated by the World Bank. And that has given credit by all the funds, as the president was himself saying. So we're not starting from a clean slate. So that means that this idea of emphasizing, one time a hyena wanted to eat a calf. And it decided that what I'm going to do, I'm going to emphasize something. And because the issue is a moral question, I am not going to emphasize the important. I'm going to emphasize the unimportant. So there is a cow and the owner. So the owner is what you are going to emphasize. But what it is, you are not going to say. Whose? You shout, whose? Then you say, cow. In a whisper. Then you say 3 times, and you say nobody has come to claim the ownership of the cow. But you are not mentioning the cow.
The cow itself.
The cow itself. You are mentioning whose. So everybody is listening to hear what it is that you want to say. But you don't say it because the purpose is to eat the calf anyway.
Right.
So let us be honest with ourselves and give accent where it is supposed to be.
Okay, so if
this
that's the
country
case,
need to produce. 2, this country need a vision to supersede or succeed Vision 2030. 3, this country need to turn back to meritocracy, merit-based leadership from the bottom to the top. And this country need to return to its moral foundation.
Prof, you speak of meritocracy, and this then brings the conversation of political honesty, political good manners, and what one would say is a clearly spelled out vision on where we want to go. Because if you look at the history of China, yesterday we were having a discussion, and there is the aspect that by the year 2025, China years back had decided, you know what, we do not produce electric cars, but by 2025 we need to be the biggest producers of the same. You know, our energy that we use is not clean, but we need to be the top producers of clean energy. And all this was in a vision that they have stuck through, and 5 years later, as we speak today, they are the biggest producers of these sectors that you've talked about. Now, here's a question where you look at how successive leaders in China have carried the original, what one would call the mother vision throughout. And Kenya one asks the question, we had Vision 2030, which was our mother dream. How do we further it forward? So is it a question today that all we are doing with infrastructure fund and 5 trillion shillings that we need is just a political gimmick for the next election and not necessarily a vision in the long term that is aimed at making Kenya be better?
You know what is actually sad also is not just the vision or the lack of it. What is sad is that now we do have a leadership that can hardly think beyond themselves. And I've said that over and over again. I was just thinking as Prof was speaking here and reflecting on the 2 pillars of again, Singapore that we're talking about. This creating a business-friendly environment and also export-oriented growth. If you look at those 2 pillars are not pillars where politicians benefit directly.
So
you basically create an infrastructure for other people to do things that are good for your country. And if you look at the entire Singaporean pillars and so on, you could say that a lot of them have to do with what is good for the country, not necessarily what is good for the politician. And one thing that I find disturbing in this country at all levels is just how, lack of enablement by the political class. They're an obstacle to everybody. They're an obstacle to investors. They're an obstacle. People hang around politicians' offices so that they can get favor to do a government project, leave alone even a private project, as it actually were. If you're going to do an investment outside there, the person who's going to fight you, the person who's actually going to fight you is a politician. It is not. We don't see the politician as an enabler who's saying, look here, during my leadership, so many companies have been established in Kenya.
Yeah.
So much production is happening and so on. Even our president, and sometimes it disturbs me, even our president, when you hear the president talking about the sort of production that he's talking about, a lot of it is really government doing things. We even quarrel about that when we're discussing housing, that the role of government is to enable private sector to deliver housing.
Yeah.
It is not for government to build houses.
Sure.
When we hear about agriculture, it's about new irrigation schemes and so on being done by government. We don't hear emphasis that government will just enable people, will enable private sector, will enable investors to come in and put in their money and build growth and all of these things, and starting to ask how can this then be facilitated. Yes, of course we are talking a little bit about PPPs, but you don't get that accent, you don't get that urgency that here is a government that actually wants to create an infrastructure that wants to support the rest. That wants to support its people, that wants to support investors, private investors, that wants to support the private sector to do things. So we are seeing government doing a lot of things that number one, they don't need to do because they're very bad at it, and they're better left to the private sector. That conversation is not happening yet. What you're talking about, even in terms of this fund and so on, is anchored on private sector.
Sure.
But again, what you're hearing is more what government intends to do, rather than what this fund will do, to unlock private sector potential to then drive these different sectors that we're talking about. So we can't even envision, what government needs to do in every single sector, to enable the productivity that we expect from the private sector. We don't see that at all. We see government wanting to do the same things that the private sector actually wants to do.
Is doing.
And to me, that is missing in the conversation.
To just add on what Prof is saying, when I look at our leadership, and let me be judged as guilty as I am, I look at my two boys in the house competing to come and show me how how they have performed very well. It's like you are waiting to be judged on how well you have done by this mighty dad, because so that you can be rewarded. And that kind of reward, let me call it immature reward-based conception of national development is what is messing us up. And it started with Uhuru Kenyatta, and now Ruto is amplifying it. Now, why do I say it started? I saw billboards with Kenyatta of what he has done, have done this. You are not supposed to do anything. This is us.
Exactly, correct.
This is our government.
Correct.
This is our people.
Government.
You're supposed to give us leadership to achieve what we achieve. And that's why people talk about Kibaki. They don't talk about Kibaki because of anything else. Exactly. Because he never claimed anything. He just got things done. Correct. That's what a leader is supposed to do. Because if you wear that mentality that you'll be judged by the kilometers of roads that you have built, and that is how you are going to be judged, you are holding the wrong end of the stick. Why? Because it is not about the kilometers. It's the quality of life that people have. Two, it is not about the houses you have built. It's about the quality of the policy you introduce that enabled people not only to build houses in urban areas, but also to repair their dilapidated homes in the villages. The ones they build with the coffee boom, and there's no more coffee boom, what are they going to do with their houses that need painting, that need new roof, that new tiling? Do you have that comprehensive policy that deal with Kenya as a whole? And if you want to just have the shows that we are going to go on the road and say, oh, those are Nyao houses, or those are these houses, or those are those houses. I mean, you go to South Africa today, and I have lived in South Africa for 10 years, and I have lived in Kenya. If You tell me to own a house in Kenya by buying, I'll tell you are foolish.
Yeah.
You don't know economics.
Exactly.
Because this is a rentier's market.
Correct.
A house where you pay and the owner cannot even pay his mortgage using the rent you
There
have
you go.
done.
True.
In South
It's the
Africa,
rent, but
it's the other way
around.
around.
Correct, yeah.
It's a known as whatever.
Yeah.
So immediately you get there, 1 year, 2 years, you go to the bank and get your own and you start
And
paying.
buy a
If you
house,
leave the
correct.
house, it will pay for itself.
Yeah. Okay.
You get it? So people are able to move from their houses and build new houses, building new houses across outside Johannesburg,
Yes.
outside Pretoria, outside Cape Town. Because the houses are not supposed to be affordable. They are supposed to be what you can build. It's not about the market, affordability or non-affordability.
It
All
should be
these
what you can
all these
build.
concepts are confusing. What is affordable to a primary school teacher?
Correct.
What is affordable to a university professor?
And I would
What's
say,
affordable to the other? So these are relative terms.
Correct.
Even as we do have these conversations, and then at least to point our minds in the direction in which this should actually be going, the fund has been established by cabinet yesterday.
That's okay.
The infrastructure
Yeah.
fund has been established by cabinet,
There's no
and the
problem with
thinking
that, yeah.
is still that
We're not fighting it.
no, but the thinking is still that it must be infrastructure bound. But it is clear, it's clear now that with this, we will not reach this hallowed place that we're supposed to be going. We
Right.
won't.
Right.
It's obvious that it will not happen. And 5 trillion shillings at the start is going to be employed to be able to get this done. The 28,000 kilometers of road, the this, that, the other thing. But like you said, there's going to be nothing moving along on that caboose, because it's just going to be cement city, essentially what we are looking at. Where would you imagine this 5,000 shillings can come from? Dennis told us that we've collected 3 trillion, we've collected almost 4 trillion, and that has
7.144.
not been able to sort out the issues that Kenya has. It has not been able, it has not been done. The CLB today, in a story that we've seen, has talked about 2% absorption
Right.
by counties. 2% absorption.
Development.
That is development that we're talking about.
Correct.
Whether the money came late, never,
Correct.
it's not the issue right
Exactly.
now.
Yeah.
Is that it didn't happen. That
Correct.
development didn't happen with money
Exactly.
that was available.
Correct.
Now we are saying that we're going to get to the developed world with money that's, number one, not available yet, and that with this new infrastructure, with the one that we have,
Right.
there has only been 2% absorption in the regional bodies that the Constitution has broken up due to devolution. Truly, honestly, we can talk, we can proclaim, we can pontificate, but truly, honestly, is this model, is it going to work? Where is the 5 trillion shillings going to come from? Let's start there.
No, the 5 trillion shillings can be found. That's not a problem. That is the easier part of it. But I wanted, and I'll come just to that right away. But I wanted to emphasize what you said at the start, and you are insinuating it here. The problem is never really about money. We know that. Look at the housing fund. What is the absorption rate of that housing fund anyway?
Well, let's be honest. How many houses have been built
The
since
absorption
2020?
and the fund is, and the money is there.
1,200 and so
And
have
the
been
money
built in
is
2.5
there.
years.
We are collecting 67 billion every year to build houses. So we're not even absorbing it in the first instance. And another thing that the Kenyan problem is not a fund problem. It's not a money problem. The Kenyan problem is elsewhere. It is a corruption issue. It's a governance issue. Is all these different things. But to come back to your question. For government to raise 5 trillion in the market, that's very easy. That's extremely, private sector are able to do it. Government can and will do it, actually. That I'm not even worried about. There's a lot of resources in this country, even before we go out, looking for places to invest. In fact, the problem has been the same government, that opportunities for citizens normal opportunities for citizens to invest in their own country and make money have been thwarted. A good example, we're having conversations when Talo Oil was coming in here with the former Minister of Energy, Kiraitu Murungi. And we're asking ourselves, is it impossible for Kenyans to raise money that would result in prospecting of our oil there? If a vehicle was created, that money would be raised overnight in the stock markets. It will be raised overnight. We know government borrowing, not even whatever, bonds. Those things, basically, they're normally oversubscribed by far. Yeah. So in terms of where to get the money, we do actually have the money. That's not a problem. The issue, again, just like we've been discussing here, are more fundamental issues about governance. There are more fundamental issues about even the nature of these funds. Now, if you're shifting away from the broader governance issues to these funds, how have these funds been created before? In most of these countries, yes, we're talking about Norway, we're talking about the Netherlands, we're talking about Europe. Governments create these funds largely from surpluses that they have. They come in, so it's not borrowing from the market. You come and create a fund from the surpluses, and then of course you crowdfund in case you need additional funds and so on, is invested, and then you've got your sovereign funds, and you can use that for infrastructure. In Europe, there's a case of actually donations into the fund from different countries and so on, and saying, fine, we shall actually create a European infrastructure fund that then you can actually use to develop. Here, of course, we've said, it'll be a company, it'll be a private sector, so that it is not, we are not burdened in our taxes, and that makes sense. But on the other hand, this company, what could be the basis for this company to raise funds? Can anybody just create a company, then you go to the stock market and raise funds? The only basis for this company to raise funds is that those funds would be secure. That's why they're called sovereign funds.
Yeah.
And who is the security? It will be Kenya's people and Kenyan taxes. Yeah. So whether we like it or not, this particular fund that's being created will have to be secured by our taxes, by taxes that we're yet to pay, really, and anyway, by our taxes and our incomes and so on. Of course, this thing is also connected to the sovereign wealth issue that again cabinet talked about. So it's very clear that we are looking at the wealth that this country has. Our wealth, our inheritance as Kenyans is actually going to be part of this. So what does that actually mean? If you double with that in the market, you can lose that wealth anyway, because this fund will also be getting, investments, from third-party players, and the private sector issue. This, if you look at it carefully, the Ruto government has been trying quite hard to privatize Kenyan state companies and
KPC, big one,
and state corporation. Yes, we have pipelines that are being talked about. There've been conversations about the airport. There've been, especially the ones that are doing well. In fact, we want to sell our stake in Safaricom and so on. So we've had this issue that we actually want to take away Kenya's wealth, literally sovereign wealth, and put it in private hands, and that's a terrible thing, actually, as it were. That needs to be protected, despite the fact that we need to generate other funds. So we need to think quite carefully about what this fund would be. And if it is the same companies that we're talking about, when the president spoke, he spoke about Kenya Railway, for example, expanding their things and so on, having money for the ports and so on. And for me, I was cringing because I said, so how will Kenya Railway, for example, invest in this sovereign fund? One of the most straightforward ways of doing it is turn Kenya Railways into a private company. Yeah. Turn all those things into private companies. Let guys own it. Then these guys now would own that big infrastructure thing, and that way, then they can raise money unfettered by some other other regulations. And from where I sit, we need to be a little bit more careful. So that, because ours is really a borrowing model. Yeah. The way we create funds, I have a small fund in my family, we create funds out of surpluses. We don't create funds. In fact, we're discussing here with Prof that, I want to create a reserve fund for my family so that, we are sure that we'll always have rents and go for holiday and so on.
Yeah.
So how do I do it? I go to the bank and borrow money, and then put it in an account, and then have to pay the bank. We don't even have money to pay the bank. We are more vulnerable. I mean, that's stupid. What happens that if we really want to create an actual reserve fund that has meaning, then we have to do our savings diligently. And at some point we say, now our savings, and our investments can enable us, can protect us for a year.
Isn't that what it's supposed to do? But look at what other countries with sovereign funds
do.
And of course, one of the most famous is Norway with, what is it,
Yes.
4
And the oil,
billion.
oil profits. Exactly.
Yeah, and those are oil profits.
Correct.
Because they're kept then
Correct.
for a situation where things may go belly up, and
Exactly.
then that fund
Exactly.
should actually be used to essentially sort things out.
And still speaking about that, because you see, I would have listened to the president, honestly, a lot more seriously. If the guy said, look here, we are losing money in corruption, we are losing money in inefficiencies, we are losing opportunities from dysfunctional state agencies that should be making profits and they're not. And we need to make money as a country. And as part of this, as part of our income as a country, we are going to use this as a bedrock of a sovereign fund. I would listen to that. But if you're telling me we'll go to the market, that's being clever. Being clever is not what we need to run the country. We'll go to the market, somehow convince them, and then raise 5 trillion. These 5 trillion, we shall not call it debt, despite the fact that we shall. And meanwhile, nothing has changed. We are saying, how sure are we that 5 trillion will be used now, the way it was meant to be used to deliver for us a profit, as it were?
And that's the problem.
One of the things that I was thinking about, imagine, we have a company, in Kenya, a few people have heard of it, called Kenya Airways. And because of these governance things that we're talking about, that company loses billions every year. And we are able to tolerate it because there are not too many of such companies. Now you can imagine, 5 trillion is how many Kenya Airways? You can imagine having 1,000 loss-making Kenya Airways. And we're enjoying at the hip. So one of the things that as taxpayers we are very concerned about is not just about the 5 trillion. Is do we really have serious, competent, committed, moral, ethical leadership that will guarantee that the 5 trillion will do what's meant to do? I've said here that actually 50% of our money goes into government inefficiencies. So you put 5 trillion, then 2.5 trillion is then, goes into inefficiencies. You are paying double. You're building the most expensive SGR on earth. You're building the most expensive expressway per kilometer on earth. You are building Talanta Stadium, and every time I look at it, I'm like, God damn it, where did these hundreds of billion go? I'm an architect. I understand some things about buildings, really. And these are things the president has to deal with. Otherwise, we'll go to court and try every means possible to stop this thing. At the core of what we need, that is, at the core of what we need, really, we need good behavior. You cannot come and squander our trillions and then now come again with another scheme that we give you more trillions so that you can squander. That is not acceptable.
Professor Kagonja, we've talked about the hardware and the software, and one would say if we fix the software of the country in terms of uplifting the social aspects of the infrastructure and having our leadership and politics and governance right, Kenya and that Singapore dream is a reality. But without fixing the software and the hardware, we're not going anywhere.
That is correct. But I think one thing that the president has achieved is to convince us that we deserve to be a Singapore. But we are not. That he has done.
Okay.
And part of the purpose of a leadership is to inspire. So to that extent, I think he has achieved inspiring Kenyans that we should not be complacent or even give hope that the failure of the Hasra nation is the failure of the Republic of Kenya.
Right.
The two are not synonymous. The Hasra nation may have died, but at least the Republic lives on. And that said, then, we are a Christian nation. So we don't need to be philosophical or professorial, like Prof and myself. It is basic in the Bible. When the Egyptians found themselves in a very dark corner where a famine is coming
in.
What did they do? They invested in production.
Exactly.
So they can have surplus. They eat and have surplus to keep. And what did they do? They got the best and the ablest of their time, who was not even a national of the Egyptians. He was a foreigner who was able to help, keep this grain. And therefore, they had a sovereign fund, if
Yes.
you wish.
Exactly.
And this is the sovereign fund that was not only to feed them.
Yes.
So the concept of sovereign fund is not about borrowing.
Yes.
It is about growing and putting reserve.
Correct.
It's like this foolish farmer who sleeps all through the farming season, the cultivating season, and then start building granary that is going to harvest, and he had not planted.
Yeah.
You know, so in a sense, I think where we have reached as a republic in the 21st century, the third decade of the 21st century, we should tell our leaders that we are thinking.
We are awake.
We are awake. Don't take people for granted.
Granted.
You have the power. You can tell us that I went to Chicago and I read on one of the corner, a child was asked, if you are on top of the world, what would you do? And the child said, ice cream would be vegetable. Because every day the mother is talking about eat your vegetable. She doesn't like it.
So turn ice cream into
so she turn ice cream into a vegetable.
Yeah.
So here we are busy turning
vegetables into ice cream.
Here we are turning ice creams into vegetables so that people can like them.
Yeah.
The truth of the matter is that we have to build our nation on fundamentals.
Exactly.
The fundamentals of political economy. The fundamentals of the economy.
Correct.
So I used to argue a lot with my friend Adam Olo and others during the campaign.
Advisor now.
And we used to, the late Raila Odinga used to say that he is going to start from a very, very comfortable corner.
Yeah.
And Mother Karua, the deputy at that time, would be running around saying the same.
Yeah.
And we are going to just block all corruption.
Yeah.
And from the start, we will start with a clean 2 billion, 2 trillion.
Yes.
Because if every month, according to Uhuru Kenyatta, we are losing 2 billion.
Yeah.
So how much are we losing per year?
Well, it's now 3 billion. based on what-
So we will start off with clean 3 billion.
Yeah.
And that's what Raila was saying. And that's why he was willing to give 6,000 shillings to every Kenyan who has no job.
Yeah.
Because there was money to give. And therefore there was money to spend as well.
Yes.
So it was a very rational thing because we are broken. If President William Ruto said, I'm going to close all corruption avenues and I'm going to create a fund that is going to be based on what we are saving,
That would be a different story.
It will be making a lot of sense.
While taking into consideration a very important thing which we seem to forget, and that's the issue of debt. That can you develop and can you make train to the Orient Express on the Orient Express where we headed to?
Right.
Can you do that with the amount of debt that Kenya owes, odious or otherwise? Because if we are saying that for every 100 shillings of revenue, 68 shillings
70, yeah.
is going towards the payment of debt. Can we have
Yeah.
a conversation where this also is one of the agents?
It is the same conversation we are having.
Exactly. Yeah.
The conversation is this. The most indebted countries in the world are Japan
Japan is US.
and the United States.
But what have they done with the money they have borrowed?
This is where we are.
Yes.
That it is not about debt. It's
What have
about
they
what you
done
are
with
doing
it?
to your country. Are you producing? Japan is producing Toyotas. It is producing all the robots now.
Right.
It is producing virtually everything, including exporting their sports.
Right.
Like Taekwondo and the others. They're exporting everything. So they can afford to borrow against what they have. In any case, it is not healthy to keep money in the country. Why don't you borrow and money security?
Correct.
So Japan has 240+% debt. We are not even yet 100 ourselves. So I personally see the politicization of debt in 2022 politics as a part of the problem we are getting ourselves into. The railway, the debt we are having today is about the railway. Actually, the largest debt we have the SGR. And instead of talking about what we wanted with SGR we wanted to industrialize.
Yes.
Yes.
Today, SGR comes from Mombasa full.
Yes.
Almost 2 kilometers of railway, attached, one carriage after another. Upon reaching the country, it goes to Mombasa empty. Right? Why? Because it has nothing to export.
Yeah.
That's where the problem is. It's not about sovereign funds. It's not about unsovereign funds. It's not about chicken funds.
Right.
No, it's not about that. It's about what we are taking out. So the railway must go full and come down full. And therefore, the question is not about distribution or consumption. It's about production.
Correct.
And that's why we are so dependent on now the IT.
Right.
Whether we are selling phones or we are selling that, and we are not producing anything ourselves. So we should now go to the basics. In the Hasra, what we call bottom-up strategic thinking, it never brought in industrialization. And we have reached a level where our agriculture is begging to be industrialized.
Exactly.
It is literally beckoning us.
Yeah.
A small country called Sri Lanka, for Ceylon, grows 10% of our tea, but it exports 10 times what we export. It earns 10 times what we want. Why? Because no tea leaves Ceylon unpackaged. It is Ceylon tea. So what are we doing with the Pakistanis? Giving them our tea to process and then market to the other parts of the world.
Right.
We are giving our tea to the Germans and the British. They package it, Lipton, as this, as that. Then they export for us. I mean, can't we be bold enough as readers and say, to hell with the funds. We want industries.
Yeah.
We want value addition of our products.
Put up the thing the
Yes,
way it
yeah,
Put it
yeah.
up. You've got the coffee here.
Right.
You've got
Yes,
the avocado
yes,
here. You've got
yes.
the tea here. Put it
now,
up.
I went to a factory in Naivasha, thanks to the government itself, and I met that Kenyan. He's a Kenyan of Indian descent, 5th generation. And I said, as I was living there, if I was airlifted and dropped in that factory, and then I am lifted again and put back, I would come here and start preaching to the Kenyans. Now do factories like those ones. You know, that benchmark with those factories. But that factory is here.
Yeah.
They are packaging avocados and they are marketing them to Middle East, to China and Europe. Today, I learned that even the vegetables that is being eaten in Paris, the green beans are actually coming from Naivasha
Yes, they are.
and packaged because their supply chain is so efficient.
Correct.
Now, so the SGR had gone there literally to see what they can help. And it never took a long time to know we need an extension to that factory.
Yes.
Now, this is what we are talking about.
Correct.
For at least XGR, we'll have avocados. And by the way, the president's avocados, I met them there. I was shocked. That is one of the best growers of avocado. I was shocked.
Which
I mean,
president?
by chance, he's arrived. As I was there, they were being sorted out as we were arriving. So he's a good farmer.
Okay.
And he knows this.
He knows, exactly,
He
correct.
knows this. So, and he knows that there are
was spreading
manufacturers
it
who
to the whole
can do
country.
this.
That's the tragedy.
So yeah. So why can't he just do that? You get us to process our avocados, process our vegetables, process our coffee, and then have things to put in our train
Correct.
to China, to Singapore, to Malaysia, and whatever. So this is where the problem is come. You know the cure,
But you just
but
don't
you
apply.
just don't do it. Instead, you are bringing these esoteric ideas about funds that are from borrowing.
Yes.
You cannot have borrowing and funds in the same sentence.
It won't work.
No, it is absurd.
A closing point from you both will start with you, Professor Menya, because we established this is where an aspiration is a good thing to have. But on the ground, what must be done to ensure that this thing actually happens, if that's the direction in which you should be going? We've talked about what we should do. We've talked about how we should actually engage moving forward. But the reality on the ground is that it would appear as though, we're very clear from Cabinet yesterday and from the President that this is the direction in which it's going. If lived experience is anything to go by, that 5 trillion shillings into that fund, we may not see where it will go. But then how should people engage at this point to then be able to say, no, this is not where we should be going? Leadership, governance, begging for a particular direction to be taken. What should be done now?
No, thank you very much, Ndu and Dennis and Prof. I think it is time that we asked for maturity. I've said over and over again that what you have in government, both national and county, and I've been castigated for it, is juvenile governance. Life is serious. Running nations is serious business. There's need for honesty. There's need for these nuances. Whatever is being said, I've no problem with it. But if our leaders, if our president was sitting down and saying, how will this thing actually work? And applying the minds to it, the solutions are really not a problem. We have enough capacity in this country to help the president realize this. Be it the infrastructure fund, be it the Singaporean dream, even debt, as we're talking about, and Prof has alluded to that. There's no problem with that. In fact, sometimes it's better using debt than using your own money,
right?
Because it's cheaper in particular instances and so on. But my big problem with this country currently, especially the guys in government, people do not work. People do not think about this country. People do not think about the impacts the departments, can achieve. People spend 3/4 of their time, if not 100% of their time, thinking how they can make some quick buck, how they can loot this country, how they can make billions so that they can run for this and that stupid post here and there. That is the problem. We lack serious politicians in this country, really. We lack serious leaders in this country. People can sit down and say, look here, this is what we're doing, this is how far we're going with it. We think that there's a problem in this and that, and we're changing course. We are tweaking things like this and that. So what you see is lack of depth. Is total lack of depth in government policies and even in government programs. What you see is a bunch of juveniles defending their position so fiercely, and their position that actually doesn't even make sense to the public. It is time we really, and our politicians, we love you. It is time our politicians realize that what we require of them as Kenyans is not to give us heaven. We just require of them to apply their minds, spend at least 4 hours a day doing the job you said you're going to do. We understand you're humans and you want to achieve everything. But don't go there and you're looting and you're stealing. You're not applying your mind to anything. And whenever Omenya and Kagwanja raises issues, you come in and castigate. You're stupid. If that's the case, why aren't you running government and so on? That's very juvenile. Sit down and do what you have to do. And like we've said here, and we're professors, we read this country. That's the reason why we are here. All will be well. This country is okay. We have the basics. We have everything that we need for prosperity. In fact, I always tell people that when I go out there, I push my Kenyan heritage and even my Kenyan education compared to this other broader education we had. We have a good product. We have a good country. However, we need people who can think through things. Sometimes it's not convenient. Sometimes it is not rosy. But then, we want somebody that you can listen to. You can say, yes, that guy has been trying this thing. He's gotten advice. He's tweaked it. And is actually moving forward. We don't expect a Kenya that is managed by gods. So don't be a god. The gods we worship on Sunday.
Yeah.
I didn't elect President Ruto to be a god. I don't expect him to solve all problems. But I expect him to at least perform as a normal president would.
Indeed.
Sit down, work on policies, come back, give us feedback, have the struggles, have failures, have successes, and so on. That is okay.
All right. Professor Kakwanja?
I think we need to separate spaces. If I'm a man of faith and I'm in politics, I should know when I'm in the political space and I'm in the faith place.
Faith space, yeah.
The prosperity gospel is for the faith.
Correct.
Don't bring it into politics.
Correct.
Because it is not going to help our people. Keep prosperity gospel in the of the
In their
helicopter
space.
church and other
Yes.
churches in their space,
space.
and so on. Because the kind of thinking we are having here about funding is touch Singapore and God will give you Singapore, or touch Malaysia
Receive the
and God will
anointing,
give
Receive the
Malaysia.
anointing.
You know, touch this, and you know, let's separate those spaces. Second, I think we must learn from our mistakes in the past. What happened to Hasra Fund?
Exactly.
How successful has it been?
Exactly.
Yep.
So, are there lessons we can learn from the Hasra Fund before we create more funds?
Correct.
And more funds. The third, I think this issue that Professor mentioned here, the juvenile politics. And it's not an insult. It's not a demeaning thing. But we know, because we have been sons ourselves,
Exactly.
and we have them there. We have our daughters,
Correct.
and our mothers and our sisters have been daughters. Now, don't run politics that you are going to be graded by some people somewhere,
Yeah.
or because you'll be graded during the voting.
Yes.
And the voters are cleverer than just saying you create you build 3 kilometers. They can see the quality of life that has come to them. So let's then put our politics at that level where we are real. Let's give people policy. Governments are about policy.
Correct.
They are not about doing.
Correct.
Governments are not implementers. Governments are about policy. And finally, President William Ruto owes us one thing. Vision 2063. He has not even started thinking. I cannot even factor his funds within the vision. Because the next president who is going to come might decide that he doesn't want us to go to Singapore.
Exactly.
He wants us to go back to Uganda or under Amin.
Then we're stuck.
So where we are. So he must give us a vision, because he himself, he was given a vision. Whether he implemented it or not is I mean, we'll judge him. But he was given a vision by his predecessors.
Correct.
So he need to give his predecessor a vision, not the confusion of this fund, that fund, this chicken fund, this fund. That's, we need to stop that. Kenya need to be taken serious
Exactly.
as a
Yeah.
country.
Exactly.
As a country.
We are a serious people.
Yeah.
We are a very self-respecting people, and we are truthful people. Don't tell us lies. Don't take us for granted.
Yes.
Just get us through the right course.
Correct.
Couldn't be said better. Professor Peter Kagwanja, as well as Professor Alfred Omenya, thank you, both of you, for being here this morning, to be able to chart that course and see, okay, well, this is what is being said. This is what we ought to do. Thank you very much for lending your voices. We look forward to the next conversation, because it is clear that another one needs to be had. Asante, we've been discussing how to navigate this constantly changing world. And when it comes to your money, you also need a plan that's easy.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.